Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today we're looking at Rocket Lab.
As usual, before we start, subscribe, like, and comment to this video to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
So let's get into the analysis.
Yeah, let's do it. I think the big question with Rocket Lab is, can they actually make this leap? They were the small launch guys for so long, and now they're trying to be this huge integrated space company.
That is the central question. And honestly, the numbers are starting to suggest they're pulling it off.
Okay, so let's start there with the financials, because it feels like they're in a, hyper-growth phase. Revenue is accelerating, and more importantly, so are the margins.
Exactly. I mean, you look at Q3 of 2025, the results are fantastic. We saw record revenue of, $155.1 million.
And that's a huge jump, right?
A huge jump. That's up 48% from the same time last year. And if you pull back and look at the whole year, the trailing 12 months, it's even more dramatic. Revenue's around $554 million, which is a 78% year-over-year increase.
That kind of speed is wild, especially in aerospace. But like you said, it's the margin improvement that really catches my eye. For years, they were basically losing money or breaking even.
And that's the core change. Gross margin hit 37% gap in Q3. Just think about that. They've gone from, expensive one-off builds to actual scale. Every new dollar that comes in is just...
Yeah.
It's more profitable.
I mean, they expect that to continue, right?
Yeah.
The guidance for Q4 is what, 37 to 39%?
Exactly. So the 37% wasn't a fluke. It seems like it's the new normal for them.
And all of this has to be helping their path to actually making money?
It is. The net loss is getting way smaller. The Q3 earnings per share loss was only 3 cents. The street was expecting much worse. They're basically knocking on the door of profitability.
Which has to give investors a lot more confidence, especially when you pair it with their backlog.
Right, that $1.1 billion backlog. It gives them such clear visibility.
And it's not just a number on a page, is it?
Not at all. About 57% of that is expected to turn into actual revenue in the next 12 months. That's an incredible conversion rate. It gives them a really solid runway for growth.
And they're backing it up with execution. I mean, 19 Electron launches in 2025, that's a new record for them.
Yep, up from 16 the year before. It just shows they can build and launch reliably and at a good pace.
Okay, but all of this growth, especially developing a whole new rocket, takes a ton of cash. Let's talk about their financial strength.
Let's. The balance sheet looks really resilient. They've got over $1 billion in liquidity.
$1 billion. That's a serious cushion when you're funding something as massive as the Neutron rocket.
It's essential.
Yeah.
And they have a net cash position of about $145 million as of the end of September. But here's the real milestone, the thing that changes everything. For the first 9 months of 2025, they were operating cash flow positive for the first time. $48 million.
Wow. Okay, so that is a massive turning point. It means they're starting to fuel their own growth instead of just relying on outside money.
Exactly. They can fund Neutron development with their own cash, which is a huge de-risking event for investors.
And that cash lets them build out their main advantage, which is this whole one-stop shop model.
Yeah, they've really changed the story. They're not just the Electron launch company anymore.
So what does that actually mean, being vertically integrated?
It means they have the launch services, Electron and soon Neutron, but they also have this fast-growing, higher-margin part of the business called space systems.
And that's where the real growth is coming from now, right?
It's the engine. It brought in $114 million in Q3 alone. This is where they sell the satellite buses, the reaction wheels, solar panels, all the critical parts, sometimes even to competitors.
That's an interesting strategy. So why spend all this money on Neutron if the components business is so good?
Because the launch is the hook. It gets them in the door with governments and big clients. They prove they're reliable, and then they can sell them the whole package, the satellite, the parts, and the ride to space.
Yeah.
The launch is basically customer acquisition for the high-margin hardware.
And that's getting noticed. I saw they got that grant from the Canadian Space Agency, almost $1 million to develop a new reaction wheel.
Yep. That's the government validating their component tech, not just their rockets.
Which brings us back to Neutron, the reusable medium-lift rocket. That's the future, really.
It's everything. First flight is targeted for Q1 2026, and this is what lets them go after the entire launch market, not just the small stuff.
And they just passed a huge milestone for it, didn't they? Something about a hungry hippo.
Yeah, the hungry hippo fairing. It sounds funny, but it's a brilliant piece of engineering.
So what does it do?
Well, normally the nose cone of a rocket, the fairing, just gets thrown away. But Neutron's fairing stays attached. It opens up like a clamshell to release the satellite, then closes back up for reentry.
So they don't have to fish it out of the ocean or build a new one every single time.
Exactly. It saves a ton of money and time. Qualifying that mechanism proves a huge part of their reusability plan actually works. It's a major hurdle cleared for that 2026 launch.
And all of this is happening as they're pushing more into government work, like with that Geost acquisition.
Very smart move. That beefed up their space sensor capabilities and got them deeper in with government customers. In this geopolitical climate, that's crucial.
They're becoming the reliable number 2 option after SpaceX.
That's the slot they're aiming for. Governments need a backup, and Rocket Lab, with its track record and integrated model, is the perfect fit.
All right, so the fundamentals look strong. How has the market been reacting to all this?
Well, the stock's been on a tear. It's up over 100% year-to-date in 2025.
Wow. So the market is definitely pricing in that Neutron success.
It seems to be. And technicals look pretty bullish, too. The stock is trading well above its 50-day and 200-day moving averages. That's, kind of the classic sign of a strong uptrend.
Yeah. So where could it go from here?
Some of the technical targets point towards maybe a $50 to $58 range. And that rising 200-day average, which is around $44 or $45, that's acting as a really strong floor of support.
And who's buying? Is it just retail or?
No, the big players are in. Institutional ownership is up to around 71, 72%. You've got funds like BlackRock adding to their positions. That's a huge vote of confidence.
Okay, but we have to talk about the insider selling. I mean, when a stock runs up that much, you always see it. The CEO and a director sold, what, over $270 million combined?
Yeah, and that number looks scary. It definitely creates some noise.
So how should people think about that?
You need context. First, this is after a massive run-up, so it's likely just diversification, taking the money off the table. Second, you're not seeing the entire management team running for the exits, which would be a real red flag.
And there's a counterpoint, isn't there?
There is. This is the crucial part. The CEO, Peter Beck, actually went and bought $2.1 million worth of stock on the open market in October with his own money.
Okay, that definitely changes the narrative. An open market buy from the CEO speaks volumes. It suggests the sales were just planned, not a sign of trouble.
I think so. And you also just have this massive tailwind for the whole space sector, with companies like SpaceX getting these huge private valuations. Rocket Lab is really the main way for public investors to play that theme.
All right, so looking ahead, what are the big catalysts to watch for in the next, say, 3 to 6 months?
The first one is Q4 earnings, probably in February 2026. The guidance is high, 170 to 180 million. They need to hit that.
But the even bigger thing will be the commentary, right?
Exactly. The commentary on reaching operating EBITDA break-even. If they say they hit that in Q4, that validates this whole margin story.
And outside of earnings, it's all about Neutron.
All Neutron. We need to see positive updates on engine tests, on stacking the stages, and anything that confirms that Q1 2026 launch date is solid.
Plus the regular business, of course. Successful launches for customers like Keist and JAXA.
Yep, keep the machine running and that backlog converting.
Okay, let's have some fun. Let's talk speculative upside. And, we always make it clear this is just market chatter, not confirmed fact.
Of course. So one of the big whispers is a potential major government contract, a multi-launch deal for national security payloads. That would just blow current expectations out of the water.
And I've also heard some chatter about a potential partnership with a big cloud company, like an Amazon or a Google.
Yeah, imagine if they could plug their satellite data services directly into a major cloud platform. They go from being just a hardware company to a data powerhouse overnight.
Those are exciting, but we have to balance it with the risks, and the biggest one has to be execution.
It's all about Neutron. The market is priced in success. Any major delay, any technical failure, it would hit the stock hard. That is the #1 risk.
And then there's just the cash burn. I mean, it's getting better, but they're not solidly profitable yet. They still need to spend a ton on R&D.
Right, and that makes them vulnerable if the markets get choppy and it becomes harder to raise money.
Finally, let's just touch on volatility. This is a high beta stock. What does that mean in simple terms?
It just means it moves more than the overall market. Its beta is around 2.2. So if the S&P 500 goes up 1%, Rocket Lab might go up 2.2%.
And the same on the way down.
Exactly. It's great when the market is rising, but it can really amplify your losses in a downturn. You have to be able to stomach the big swings.
So despite those risks, it really does seem like they're in a unique spot. They're proving they can execute, the financials are improving, and they have these multiple ways to grow.
It's a really compelling long-term story, but only if they nail this next phase. And that raises a final thought for you to chew on. If Neutron does launch successfully in early 2026, the entire conversation changes. It's no longer can they build it, it immediately becomes can they launch it over and over again like SpaceX? And that's a whole different challenge.
Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss our next analysis.